Fool. For the time being, let's retreat. The leader's choice was absolute inside the dungeon. The unspoken rule said that as long as one was a part of the raid team, one had to absolutely follow the commands of the leader. One used to say that. Before in war, insubordinate soldiers were executed right away, didn't they? In a certain way, dungeons were a far more dangerous place than any war zone out there. And so, the question of the team's survival or annihilation depended on who the leader was. Thankfully, Son Kai-hoon didn't disappoint his team members. After hearing his order to retreat, everyone lightly patted their chests. I was really worried that Son Hyung would insist on going till the end, you know. Son Kai-hoon grinned and slapped the person who said that on the shoulder. I'm not a blind idiot like that. I know that. But, look here, Hyung. Look at my shaking hands. Jinwoo picked up the luggage and placed it on his back. Along with Son Kai-hoon's orders, the raid team began moving again, although their direction had reversed. Jinwoo smiled wryly, and here I am, hoping to go in a little bit deeper. Regardless of what happened, he was nothing more than a guest. And as a guest, he had no right to run his mouth on this and that about the decision of the house owner, now did he? It was indeed a bit regretful, but it'd have to end here today. Everyone, stop. There was confusion evident in his voice. The fatigued hunters walking cautiously forward came to a stop, and so did Jinwoo as well. He had been keeping an eye towards the rear in case the monsters decided to chase after them. What the hell is the meaning of this? What is going on? Why is the path blocked? Wasn't it fine when we entered earlier? Jinwoo walked past the noisy hunters and got to the front before reaching out with his hand, and his eyes widened as well. It's been blocked off. The path had been blocked off by an invisible barrier. He immediately recalled the instant dungeons. More specifically, the wall that demarcated the border between the instant dungeon and reality. But he soon shook his head. No, this is different from that. He could detect a certain sense of artificiality from this invisible wall, seeing that there was a trace of magic energy mixed in. This barrier must have been the result of a magic spell cast by a monster with high intelligence. But why? Why block the path going out and not going in? It was then, as if it was waiting for this moment, horrendously powerful magic energy waves crashed into the group like a tsunami from the far end of the cavern. How could this be? This was from the boss of this dungeon. What the hell? Why am I getting goosebumps all of a sudden? Watching the complexions of the hunters get paler by the second, Jinwoo came up with a theory. If, let's say that there is a boss that can hide its presence, then the wall that wasn't there when they entered, and the boss that bared its fangs only after the barrier had been erected. No way. Did it lay a trap and wait for hunters to enter the dungeon? From beyond the darkness of the dungeon's interior, the countless sounds of footsteps, far greater than before, reverberated loudly. The countless marching high orcs came to a halt just a little bit of distance away from the hunters. High orcs growled as if they'd pounce at any given moment. No words could adequately describe the bloodthirsty aura emitted from over 50 high orc warriors. The result of a battle was pretty obvious even without actually fighting them. This is crazy. How can this nonsensical crap be? Hunters spat out long groans. They continued to retreat ever so slightly after feeling the enormous pressure, but too bad. Their path was still blocked off. So, what would they do now? God damn it. If only either Chairman Choi Jong-un or Hunter Cha Hee-in were here. Son Kai-hoon's expression crumpled unsightly. Rank S hunters all possessed incredible powers that could overturn any unfavorable situation. If either one of those two were here, these high orcs would have been nothing at all. Just why, in a situation like this, why weren't they here? Son Kai-hoon had fought alongside them all the time, so he could acutely sense his powerlessness right about now. Fighting here will definitely result in our death. However, with their path of retreat blocked off, he no longer had any choice in the matter. The creature's voice sure sounded loud. The glare of the high orc was fixed to the leader of the raid team, Son Kai-hoon. What the hell is that thing trying to talk to us? What is it saying? It was then the facial muscles of the high orc began trembling. When that strange tremor subsided, a completely different voice from before came out from the monster's mouth. Humans. It was as if something else had borrowed the monster's mouth to speak. Oh, humans. When looking at closer, that normal-looking orc's eyes were now unfocused and blurry like those of a dead fish that died a long time ago. Hunters began freaking out as if the back of their heads were smacked out of nowhere. An orc just spoke a language of humans. How can an orc speak Korean? Is this magic? Could it be? Hunters couldn't keep their mouths shut at this utterly unexpected situation. The leader High Orc continued to speak. I am Karu Galgan. I want to meet humans. Follow this one. A monster wished to speak to humans. There never had been any reports of such a case before. Facing this unprecedented event, not only Son Kai-hoon but everyone in the raid team fell into a state of pure confusion. Kai-hoon Hyung, I hope you ain't listening to the words of a monster. Please, you gotta ignore it. Kai-hoon, it's a trap. Regardless what happens, we gotta try to finish it here. Son Kai-hoon maintained his silence for a while, before answering the monster's words. Did you block the cavern? That's right, I am the proud High Shaman of the Orcs. My spells can't be broken by the strength of humans. Is there anyone stronger than you inside this cave? Who dares to oppose me? An incredibly loud roar exploded out from the High Orc and slammed into the eardrums of the hunters. When Son Kai-hoon's answer didn't come right away, the leader High Orc raised its large axe above its head. Now choose. Die here, at the hands of my soldiers, or follow my soldiers will follow. Son Kai-hoon's immediate answer prompted the eyes of the hunters to grow wider. Kai-hoon Hyung. Mr. Kai-hoon. Son Kai-hoon interrupted his comrades trying to dissuade him and waited for the reaction of the High Orc. Then come, human. With the end of those words, the blurred eyes of the leader High Orc regained its original clarity, and that would be wild beast-like glare of bloodlust. Son Kai-hoon was the first to start walking, and the hesitant hunters began to follow after him one after the other. What is he thinking? Jinwoo stared with a puzzled expression on his face. Is he trying to negotiate with the boss in order to get out of here alive? Although the odds of that succeeding was extremely low. No, maybe this was for the better. Jinwoo originally believed that this raid would end with him hunting down a few mob creatures, but now he got himself a chance to meet the boss instead. Hunter Nim. Yes, Jinwoo continued looking at the front while answering him. Son Kai-hoon, too, continued to stare at the backs of the High Orcs walking further up ahead. As soon as we meet the boss, we're going to attack right away. When that happens, regardless of whether our attack was successful or not, the Beastars should not be able to maintain the magic spell blocking the exit. That made a certain amount of sense. Unless it was some kind of hex-type magic, one had to keep one's focus in order to maintain a spell, especially if one wanted to maintain high-class magic. An incredible mental focus was a necessity. However, what about it? Didn't matter whether they succeed in killing the boss or manage to cancel the magic blocking the exit. They would still meet a dog's death right away inside the boss room after getting surrounded by the countless High Orcs anyway. While their attention is on us, Hunter Nim, please escape from the boss room. Once you get out of the dungeon, you must alert the main assault force. By the time the assault team consisting of rank S hunters arrive here, everything would be over for them. Son Kai-hoon was getting ready to die. Are you thinking of dying alongside the boss? Jinwoo sneaked a glance at Son Kai-hoon's expression. His face remained hardened, but there was no wavering in his eyes. Our job isn't to get out of this dungeon alive, but to close the gates. Many people outside are paying us a great deal of money for that purpose. Son Kai-hoon's voice gained more conviction as he spoke. We will do our job according to what we've been training for. However, you're different. There's no reason for you to die here. I hope you can get out of this place alive. One could now hear the unwavering belief in his voice. His words contained his determination. Jinwoo realized that nothing he could say right now would be of any help to Son Kai-hoon, so he simply nodded his head as his reply. Cha-hyeon finally arrived at the location of the second Ranka gate. She had her baseball cap pushed down low, and as a result, only a few passers-by recognized her. The first thing she did was to seek out the mining team. A few hunters walked past her and sneaked a couple of glances, but they were all working for the guild anyway, and none of them paid her any great attention after that. Eventually, she could see Foreman B in the distance, as well as the mining team around him. Thump, thump. Her heart began beating faster. Standing a little bit of distance away from them, she scanned the faces of each miner present. Where is he? She couldn't see Jinwoo among them. How should she say this? It felt like all of her energy was abandoning her at once. Did he give up on being a miner? Why don't I wait for another minute? He could have left the spot for only a moment and is coming back soon. 3 minutes more. No, maybe 5. And so, she waited for another 15 minutes, but Jinwoo didn't show up in the end. Recognizing Cha-hyeon, Foreman B quickly ran over to her. Cha Hunter Nim, I thought you were taking a break today. Hello there. Cha-hee shared a simple greeting with Foreman B, and after making sure that no one was eavesdropping on her, she cautiously asked him a question. By any chance, is there a hunter named Sung Jin-Woo working for you, Mr. Seong? Hearing an unexpected name being mentioned out of the blue, Foreman B formed a surprised expression. If you're looking for Mr. Seong, he subbed for a porter's job. A porter? Cha-hee gasped out in shock. Are you saying he actually went inside the gate? Foreman B nodded his head vigorously as if to show that he, too, couldn't believe it. Yes, miss. That's what happened. A ranky hunter volunteered as a porter and entered a rank dungeon. And he didn't even have dozens of lives or anything, too. What was he thinking? But when Cha-hee thought about it, didn't she find that man loitering around the boss room yesterday with weapons in his hands? Indeed, she did not see wrong back then. One more thing to be suspicious of, then. Even though she ended up letting go of yesterday's event as a coincidence, when she really thought about it in detail, it was a rather strange thing for a hunter with 4 years of experience getting lost inside a dungeon like that. I need to find out. Cha-hee lightly bit into her thumb while pondering her choices, before swiftly making her decision. I'll have to enter the gate myself. Foreman B's eyes went extra round. Was there some kind of an accident? Should we ask the guild for additional personnel? No need. It's a personal matter. I just wanted to talk to him about something private, so you don't have to worry. Oh, I see. Cha-hee spun towards the gate. However, her side felt rather empty then. My weapon. She felt around her waist, only to belatedly remember that she had left her sword back home. Since she never imagined that she'd be entering a dungeon on her off day like this, well, Cha-hee forehead beautifully creased up. As a leader, Mr. Kai-hoon is someone totally trustworthy, and the rest of the team are made up of capable hunters. But it was still unimaginable to enter a dungeon without a weapon in hand. Mr. Foreman, can I borrow a weapon from you? Pardon me. Foreman B hesitated somewhat, before calling out to a hunter passing by. Hey, over here, Mr. Seok. Please bring me one of our equipments. Yes, boss. The equipment Mr. Seok rapidly brought over was a pickaxe, as used by the mining team. Cha-hee expression stiffened. Excuse me, don't you have anything else? Such as, for instance, swords or spears. But if you ask us for such things, well, Cha-hee sighed out under her breath. I understand. She then carefully rejected the pickaxe Foreman B tried to hand over and quickly walked towards the gate. He anxiously asked her as he watched her distancing back. Hunter Nim, will it be fine for you to be empty-handed in there? Cha-hee came to an abrupt halt and stood there for a moment, before hurriedly walking back to take the pickaxe from Foreman B. He guffawed out in a genial manner. I think that's for the best, miss. I mean, it'll be dangerous to be weaponless inside a dungeon, regardless of what. Well, then, as she turned around to hurriedly leave, Foreman B unluckily didn't get to see her ears dyed in deep shades of crimson. Soon, their eyes caught the sight of the boss room. The anxiety felt by the hunters came over the air, and could be felt on his skin. They were greeted by a huge open space. Jinwoo scanned the boss room. It was smaller than yesterday's boss room with the giant in it. However, quite unlike yesterday, he didn't get the impression that the boss room was huge at all. And that would be all thanks to countless high orcs completely filling up the chamber. As a matter of fact, there were over twice as many orcs here as those that escorted the raid team. At least 100. No, maybe it's a bit more than that. While there were no monsters inside the rest of the dungeon, they had been gathered inside the boss room instead. Seeing the masses of high orcs waiting inside, Son Kai-hoon's complexion paled in an instant. If this many high orcs managed to escape from the gate, then this was a large enough horde to utterly destroy a small city, even before the top hunters had the chance to do something about them. Cold sweat trickled down his backside. At the very least, we gotta eliminate the boss. Just like how he resolutely swallowed the dry saliva, he did his best to keep his determination burning in his heart. Shark, the leader high orc beckoned again. The raid team and the escorting high orcs walked over to an altar located in the corner of the boss room. Over there, one of the hunters pointed towards the top of the altar, and that's where the high orc shaman stood, dressed in all manner of accessories adorning its entire body, including a mask, bone necklace, and earrings. So, that's the boss. Son Kai-hoon's expression hardened. He immediately realized that the terrifying magic energy filling up the interior of this dungeon was being emitted from that creature. And then, surrounding that beastard was, from the 4 guards possessing an air of alertness standing around the boss, he also sensed a rather ominous aura as well. This isn't good. Could the raid team get past those guards and kill the shaman in one fell swoop? The hunters were all thinking roughly the same thing. The hunters stopped in front of the shaman, A certain intangible tension flowed in between the high orcs surrounding the human hunters as they kept a certain distance away. However, the shaman didn't seem to care about the mood of the place. It simply opened its rather malformed jaw, visible below the mask, and cackled out. "Oh humans, welcome." The hunters of the raid team exchanged glances. As soon as Son Hyung gives us the signal, we attack together. However, suddenly, the air around them began freezing up. Hunters of this raid team were some of the very best out there. They all shifted their gazes at the same time at this sudden outpouring of chilling aura. The source was the shaman. The creature finally took the mask off. When it did, the magic energy it had been hiding until then exploded forth, unchecked and unhindered. Rumble. The freakish magic power spread out in circular waves with the boss as the center. As if they were normal, powerless civilians that ran into a lion or a tiger, the hunters froze up on the spot like a bunch of statues. Oh my god, how can a magic power of such magnitude be? We gotta fight against something like this. Despair, lamentation, resentment, even regret. The shaman formed an ominous grin when facing these varying forms of hopelessness. "Are you scared of me, humans?" Son Kai-hoon bit down on his lower lip, hard, and took a difficult step forward before asking a question. "Why did you summon us here? Your warriors would have been enough to kill us back there." The shaman grinned again. Simply looking at the grin chilled the backs of the hunters. "It's for entertainment." "What?" Son Kai-hoon was left utterly speechless. "Were they brought here just for that purpose?" The shaman continued on. "While we wait out the remaining time, I will kill you one by one and entertain the soldiers." High orc warriors all roared out in frenzy and excitement. Hunters were ruthlessly forced down by the enormous pressure emitted from the orcs and couldn't even breathe properly. One of them even began crying, no less. However, the shaman briefly stopped talking, then the boss's gaze shifted and stopped at the rear of the humans group, where Jinwoo was. "I see that a strange being is mixed among you, humans." It was then Son Kai-hoon's eyes gleamed dangerously. With the shaman looking elsewhere, "This is my chance." Veins bulged in his neck. Now, Son Kai-hoon roared out at the top of his lungs, unsheathed his sword, and rushed out. However, it was eerily quiet behind him. How come? He glanced behind him while running, and discovered his comrades rooted to their spots, not daring to move an inch. They had lost their fighting spirit a long time ago from the display of the boss's overwhelming might. Son Kai-hoon's heart fell to the pit of his stomach. Still, someone had to do this. He couldn't stop now. His gaze shifted back to the front. Perhaps his attack wasn't expected. The shaman was still smiling, and its guards weren't showing any urgent reactions, either. This could be his one and only chance. Didn't matter if it was pure luck. He'd accept fluke, too, as long as his sword could reach. Son Kai-hoon fiercely rushed forward and cocked his sword behind him. But even before he could swing the sword with all his might, he collided with something invisible and was flung away. Boom. At first, it was shield magic. Flung away from the rebound, Son Kai-hoon landed on the ground and rolled backwards. But that lasted only for a short while. "Looks like we have our first volunteer." Along with the shaman's mocking words, Son Kai-hoon's body was lifted up into the air. And now, it was the anti-gravity magic. The lips of the shaman were moving up and down non-stop. When Son Kai-hoon was lifted up as high as a 2-story building, the shaman began chanting a different spell. Next to come was gravity acceleration. Kaboom! Son Kai-hoon was slammed into the ground. He didn't even have the time to writhe in pain as he was lifted up in the air again. Not only the shaman, but the rest of the high orcs were cackling in derision as well, their fangs fully bared now. Boom! Hyok! The shaman continued to toy with Son Kai-hoon by lifting him up and slamming him down. When he landed on the ground for the 4th time, Son Kai-hoon vomited out a mouthful of blood. Seeing that scene, the complexions of the hunters got paler and paler. However, none of them dared to step forward to stop this. They simply stood there trembling while witnessing Son Kai-hoon being broken into pieces. Just as Son Kai-hoon was thrown down to the ground once more, he vanished from the view. The shaman's eyes opened wider. Where did the human disappear to, when all of his bones should be broken by now? The shaman searched for the whereabouts of Son Kai-hoon. There, in a corner not too far, it discovered Son Kai-hoon, unmoving on the ground, and at the same time, found a certain man crouching nearby. Of course, it was Jinwoo. Jinwoo carefully laid Son Kai-hoon down and glared at the shaman. "Hey, Mr. Leader, I want to ask you something. Will it be okay if I kill all of the monsters in here?" The shaman frowned and gestured with its chin, and one of the guards swung about its scimitar and ran to where Jinwoo was. As Jinwoo glared at the monster rushing towards him, a light of fury lit up in his eyes. He reached out with his hands, ruler's reach. When he did, it was as if a giant, invisible hand grabbed the orc guard, and the monster was cleanly picked up from the ground. The monster kicked and struggled in the air. What? The eyes of the shaman opened wider. Jinwoo pointed down towards the ground. Slam! The guard crashed down to the ground. The impact force was so great that deep cracks spread out on the ground. However, Jinwoo didn't stop there. Just like how the shaman manipulated Song Kai-hoon's body, he lifted the guard up in the air again. Slam! Like a basketball bouncing between the ground and one's hand, the orc guard continuously slammed into the ceiling and the ground non-stop, a helpless cry coming out from its mouth. Eventually, its head pierced into the ceiling. With that, debris from the ceiling fell down. Song Kai-hoon trembled and questioned Jinwoo. "You, just what is your? I'll ask you again. This here was a hunting ground the Hunters Guild paid for, and there was only one person present that could speak for the guild at the moment." Jinwoo asked for the last time. "Monsters in this place. Can I have them all?" What was this? Song Kai-hoon realized now that the identity of the porter or whatever didn't matter anymore. No, he was just set off. He was angry at himself for being toyed around with by the monsters like that. Tears rolled down Song Kai-hoon's face. "Please, I beg of you, do something." With that, it was done. When Jinwoo stood back up, high orcs approached him. The boss began smirking in derision. "For a measly human, you know some interesting skills, don't you?" The boss gestured, and the high orcs quickly surrounded Jinwoo. "However, just how far do you think your tricks will get you?" Jinwoo's glare became so much colder. He never really cared for any of the monsters he killed so far, but this would be his first time wanting to slice one up this badly. "I'll take care of you last." If the boss knew the meaning of enjoyment, surely it'd know what fear tasted like. Jinwoo slowly murmured out, "My shadows." 2 daggers appeared in Jinwoo's hands. "Come out and play." The black sedan stopped by the side of the road. The man climbing out of the driver's seat, kitted out in a pair of sunglasses and a black business suit, was none other than Woo Jin-cheol, the section chief of the monitoring division, the Hunters Association. Soon after his exit, 3 more men climbed out of the car from the passenger and rear seats. All of them were from the monitoring division as well. Woo Jin-cheol frowned deeply. If that giant hole opened up like a door and monsters trapped inside emerged outside. Just imagining that made him shudder. However, why did that man apply to become a miner in such a horrifying place? Not only that, for 2 days in a row, too. Even if Association President Go-gun Huey hadn't asked him, Woo Jin-cheol would have personally come here to find out. Anyway, what brings the hunters from the monitoring division to this place? The members of the mining team had been relaxing until then overheard those words, and tension briefly flashed by in their eyes. The oppressive pressure hunters felt from the words monitoring division was rather huge. The people whose job was to arrest the awakened that the normal laws couldn't do anything about. They then either reformed the troublemakers or simply eliminated them. The monitoring division was where those kinds of people worked for. Do you know by any chance where Sung Jin-Woo Hunter Nim is? I bloody knew it. Suddenly, a man jumped out from among the miners. It was Lee Seong-gu, who had run into Jin-Woo's shoulder yesterday. Lee Seong-gu passionately spat out his complaints, flying spittle accompanying his rapidly firing words. When that beastard looked at me and began grinning, I was terrified that he might eat me alive or something. You know, it's still so DMN scary even when I think about it now. Woo Jin-cheol's gaze shifted back to Foreman B. Where can I find Sung Jin-Woo Hunter Nim? Mr. Seong is. He's inside the gate right now. Sung Jin-Woo was inside the Ranket dungeon, where a raid was ongoing. Woo Jin-cheol's eyes opened wider. Why did he enter the dungeon? Well, the raid team's porter hasn't shown up today, you see. Nobody wanted to go in there, so Mr. Seong volunteered as the porter. Cha Hunter Nim. No, I mean, Cha-hee and Hunter Nim was also looking for Mr. Seong, so she entered the gate just now, you know. Isn't it just too weird? Meanwhile, the mind of Woo Jin-cheol became a bit of mess after hearing that. The vice chairman of the Hunters Guild Cha-hee was looking for Sung Jin-Woo. Not only that, she even went after him into the dungeon, too. Just what was happening here? He only stopped by to say hello to Sung Jin-Woo, but now, it felt like something big was afoot here. Excuse me, Mr. Hunter. Lee Seong-gu had this expectant face for some reason as he hurriedly asked Woo Jin-cheol. That beastard, Sung Jin-Woo, did he do something bad? Maybe he's killed someone. I mean, he looked like someone fully capable of that. Woo Jin-cheol frowned slightly again. He sort of could understand why Sung Jin-Woo glared scarily at this moron. A fool who'd get blown away into the weeds if Sung Jin-Woo snorts in front of him. Still, there were too many eyes watching. As a hunter working for the association, he couldn't carelessly display his irritation at a stranger. This was why working for a public organization sometimes could get rather annoying. Woo Jin-cheol spat out a long sigh and did his best to sound as diplomatic as possible. You'll find out when you take a look at tomorrow evening's news broadcasts. Perhaps that answered most of his own suspicions. Lee Seong-gu raised his voice high as if he had correctly predicted this. I told you, didn't I? I told you that man is too suspicious. But he didn't look that way, right? And he worked so diligently, too. Not minding the lukewarm responses of his colleagues, Lee Seong-gu went on about how great his discerning eyes were. Tisk. Woo Jin-cheol stared at that man making a fool of himself before taking his subordinates towards the gate. However, Woo Jin-cheol instinctively stopped a few steps away from the gate. Chief, the subordinates began staring in confusion at Woo Jin-cheol's stiff face. This can't be. The measurement results are wrong. Not all rank A hunters were equal. For instance, Hunter Woo Jin-cheol was right near the top within the rank and his instincts were telling him this. The measurement value was all wrong. Woo Jin-cheol quickly issued an order to his subordinate next to him. Go get the magic energy measuring device. The subordinate immediately realized that Woo Jin-cheol's expression was grave and hurriedly ran to where their car was parked. The miniature measuring device used by the monitoring division was a world apart in quality from the devices used by the regular association employees. As befitting a device created from a top-grade magic crystal that cost over $1 billion won, this piece of equipment very rarely threw up errors or mistakes in its results. The measurement result quickly came out. I knew it. The displayed result showed a clear discrepancy to the previously measured value. If the guild formed their raid team according to the measured value presented by the association, then it had definitely become a serious situation. Around the same time, Cha Hyun was following after the traces left behind the raid team. She finally located corpses in the distance. How can this be? Her eyes opened up super wide. All the corpses belonged to the high orcs. It was easy to identify them, because they featured red skin and their fangs were noticeably longer, too. How did Mr. Song Kai-hoon's team manage to defeat this many high orcs? And was that all? There was seemingly not one casualty, too. Cha Hyun discovered something odd and crouched down to take a closer look at one of the corpses, and her eyes grew even wider than before. This one, and this one, too. Almost all the high orcs were left with injuries inflicted by short but incredibly sharp weapons. They weren't blows fatal enough to kill, but she thought that these were definitely enough to hinder the movements of the high orcs, which meant that other hunters were simply dining on the table full of tasty dishes prepared by someone else. Short swords. It was then a certain scene flashed past her brain. The man who stood near the boss room yesterday. Sung Jin-Woo was definitely holding short weapons in both of his hands. When her thoughts arrived at this point, Cha Hyun's head snapped towards the deeper parts of the dungeon, and her expression rapidly hardened. She could sense this incredibly powerful magic energy wave. No, magic energy tremors, the kind she'd never experienced before, coming from there. The air itself was trembling, hard. No, Cha Hyun bit her lower lips. If that magical energy belonged to the boss monster, then no one from Song Kai-hoon's team would be able to survive. She began running towards the boss room with all her might. Whoosh! A ripple incomparably greater than that of the magic energy wave from the high orc shaman spread out everywhere. That wasn't the only change to take place, however. Along with him unshackling his magic power, the shadow beneath Jinwoo's feet spread out, too, and it covered the entirety of the chamber's surface at a frightening pace, as if someone had poured a bucket of pitch black ink onto the floor. A thin smile spread on Jinwoo's lips. Good. This was the new class-specific skill he learnt when he broke past level 70 back in the demon's castle. He sensed the fighting spirit of his enhanced soldiers soaring higher. Quite obviously, a satisfied grin formed on his face. 50 summoned shadow soldiers stood around Jinwoo in a circle as if to protect him. Did you feel that? Yeah. Can that even make any sense? The mage-type hunters were sensitive towards the magic energy to begin with, and they couldn't control their furiously quickening heartbeat no matter what, because an insane amount of magic energy was gushing out from the man who subbed in for their luggage carrier, someone whom they thought of as a simple rank E, no less. No, hang on. Is this even magic energy? To think, this magical energy is even more ominous than what the high orc shaman is emitting. The sheer pressure from the magic energy thickly filling up the boss room made it difficult to even breathe properly. The fact that this incredible power didn't belong to an enemy relieved them to no end. What are you doing? Kill the human right now. With their backs pushed forward by the voice carrying a thick amount of the shaman's magical energy, the high orc warriors all roared out and raised their weapons. High orcs screamed out. Limbs, bits of body parts sliced off by Jinwoo's 2 daggers, and the ensuing trails of blood scattered in all directions. He was so fast that even the elite hunters could only catch the glimpses of his afterimage. That's like seeing our vice chairman. Cha Hyun's nickname was the Dancer. Normally, she remained a calm, composed figure, but when she jumped into a battle, she swiftly cut down monsters as if she was performing a fast-tempo dance routine. Hence, that nickname was given to her. The woman in question forbade the use of that nickname because of how embarrassing it sounded, so it wasn't widely known. But some people still resorted to calling her that every now and then. And now, their supposed porter was displaying a movement that equaled Cha Hyun, no, even exceeding her speed. If Cha Hyun danced, then Mr. Porter was a typhoon. He had become the center of the storm to obliterate the surrounding monsters. Iron took to the front, just as he had done previously. Iron yelled out at the top of his lungs before he could enter the fray properly. When his skill failed to work, Iron got angry and began roaring out like a beast. And then, he began destroying the hapless high orcs with his massive hammer. He was so destructive that one even felt a smidgen of pity for the high orcs. On the other hand, Ygritte was elegantly and efficiently cutting down the necks of his enemies in complete contrast to Iron's brutality. High orcs running into Ygritte didn't even have a chance to scream before their breaths were cut short. Slice. When Ygritte's sword drew an arc in the air, another high orc lost its head. Regular shadow soldiers found it hard to fight against individual high orcs, but they possessed stamina that didn't know the meaning of fatigue and the capability to regenerate almost endlessly. And by buying time in this fashion, the sea of fire shooting out from the magic soldiers would rain down on top of the enemies with no exceptions. In order to kill Jinwoo, the shaman began chanting a spell. The lips of the shaman quickly moved up and down. The song of slowness, the song of blindness, the song of crippling fever, the song of intolerable pain, and the song of demonic slumber. 5 different types of hexes were completed in an instant and flew towards their intended victim. It's done. The corners of the shaman's lips arched up. The moment all those hexes were completed, Jinwoo also sensed the unnatural movement of magic energy. Jinwoo's eyes met those of the shaman's. The orc shaman smirked derisively. It's already too late, human. Hexes were different from normal magic spells and couldn't be evaded. The moment it was cast, that would be the end. But that human beast started turning into a walking corpse wrecked by all sorts of afflictions. His fate was sealed, to be ripped to shreds by the high orc warriors and their weapons. That was the end truly befitting a measly human who didn't know his place and dared to show off. Unfortunately for the monster, however, a familiar mechanical beep rang in Jinwoo's ears. Mechanical beeps fired out one after the other. All 5 hexes were dispelled even before they had the chance to activate. Jinwoo smirked at the results. There was this buff he received when he changed into the player. Continuous effect, good health and long life. You'll be immune to all types of diseases, poisonous substances, as well as all forms of status debuffs. During sleep, your recovery rate will increase exponentially. Thanks to that, he didn't have to worry about status-altering magic, such as hexes. Fitting for a boss of the rank a dungeon, the High Orc Shaman had immediately realized that its curses were rendered ineffective by an even greater power than it. But those were hexes I cast. This made no sense. In order to dispel hexes, one required the purification magic, or the blessings of a being possessing greater power than that of the hex itself. In all honesty, he could have eliminated the shaman right at the beginning of the battle if he wanted to. However, he chose not to, because he wanted to instill the sense of fear into the heart of that shaman, the way it managed to do to the hunters present. However, it seemed not quite enough to make that arrogant monster taste the true meaning of fear. The Beastard's eyes were still alive. In that case, let me show you an interesting spectacle, then. From now on, he'd show the true sphere of influence of a necromancer, accompanying the system's message alerting him to the activation of his skill. Horrifying screams that resembled death throes resounded out from somewhere unknown. The shaman's eyes widened in shock. The shaman didn't get to finish its sentence. Even before it could, black hands began rising up from the shadows beneath the corpses of the high orcs. That was why. Jinwoo began smiling deeply while gazing contently at the newbies joining his shadow army. My warriors have become undead. The shaman began shuddering uncontrollably. About 50 warriors had lost their lives so far, and about the same number had changed into those black-armored soldiers, which means those soldiers that Beastard had summoned are. High Orc warriors would bravely jump into a fight against enemies stronger than themselves without fear. But they rapidly lost all their fighting spirit the moment they saw their former comrades being revived as shadow soldiers. High Orcs, renowned for never backing down from a chance to shed some blood, were now openly retreating out of terror. The fact that they wouldn't be able to ascend to the warrior's heaven after their death, and instead become the puppets of the enemy, was the worst possible nightmare for these high orcs. Jinwoo's expression brightened. Finally, there were signs of fear in that beastard's eyes. While shaking like a leaf, the shaman recalled the existence that could revive the dead into shadows. There could not possibly be two people possessing the exact same power. So, that human had to be him. If that person is him, then why are we here? However, the moment the shaman thought about itself and the inside of its brain blanked out and the relevant memories contained within were wiped out in an instant. Jinwoo tilted his head. Who was that? She seemed a bit too distant to be totally familiar to him, however. That was why he needed a bit of a moment to recall what her name was. And she was none other than the rank S hunter currently affiliated to the Hunters Guild, Cha Hien. But what is that woman doing here? Jinwoo might have been somewhat surprised by her presence here, but then Cha Hien's own shock was far greater than his. Her wide-open eyes stared at Jinwoo and his shadow soldiers. Summons. The first thing Cha Hien thought of was summoning when she saw the shadow soldiers. However, there were simply too many of them to say that this was the result of summoning magic. The thing was, the mage-type hunters specializing in summoning magic could only control one or two at a push. If one could control two, then the treatment one received improved greatly, and she hadn't yet heard of anyone capable of controlling 3 or more summon creatures. However, just how many of them were here? This makes no sense. One man summoned over 100 in one go. And he didn't even need a lot of time to summon them, too. No, he only needed a moment to summon dozens and dozens in one go. I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it with my own 2 eyes. She might be one of the top 10 ranked hunters in South Korea, but another hunter's ability had managed to leave her totally speechless now. Woo Jincheol was running breathlessly. He ran so hard that he now tasted sweetness in his mouth. Cha Hien. Woo Jincheol found it strange that she didn't try to participate in the battle and simply stood by, so he quickly walked up next to her. And it was at that point he got to see clearly the situation inside the boss room. What is this? Soldiers wearing jet black armor were one-sidedly massacring the supposedly powerful monsters, also known as high orc warriors. The pitiful screams of the high orcs even managed to deafen Woo Jincheol's hearing. Also, he might have been less shocked if there were only human-shaped soldiers present. But then again, just what were those nonsensically huge black bears with smoke coming out of them, as well as high orcs kitted out in various black-colored armors? No matter how I see it, doesn't he look like a top-ranked melee-type hunter? However, he could even use summoning magic, too. And, sure enough, when Jinwoo's lips moved a little, dozens more summons rose up from the ground. Oh my god. Woo Jincheol's jaw fell to the floor. Just how many summons could that man control? This is the true ability of Hunter Sung Jin-Woo. By the way, why are you here, Chief Woo? We were in the neighborhood, just passing by. But it was a coincidence that we discovered the gates of normal condition, and we came here to help facilitate the evacuation of the raid team. But well, Woo Jincheol stopped talking there and stared at Jinwoo again. However, looks like that won't be necessary. This would be his first time witnessing Hunter Sung Jin-Woo's true skill. And that just so happened to be the spectacle of him clearing a rank dungeon with his own power. It didn't look like others' help was necessary. The shaman was furious. You insect-like beastard, I'll step on you. If hexes didn't work against the enemy, then all it had to do was to bless itself and fight. The Song of Rage, the Song of Strengthening, the Song of the Giants, the Song of the Fire Dragon. With the completion of the various spells, the shaman's body suddenly ballooned up to nearly 10 meters tall. Its strength, agility, stamina, and even its confidence increased greatly as well, power filling up every square inch of its frame. Right away, the shaman used its gigantic arm to swat away the shadow soldiers, and then took a deep breath. And then, when the shaman spat out its breath, reddish-black flames erupted out of its mouth. The soldiers immediately dissipated and scattered away when they were struck dead on by the flames. Even those grazed by it were no exception. Parts of their bodies were blown away, and they were rendered unable to carry on fighting. The flames didn't end with one attack. The second wave of flames spat out of the shaman's mouth in a row. The shaman was able to greatly reduce the number of the shadow soldiers with its continuous attacks. Having received a boost to its confidence, it roared out at the top of its lungs. Do you still find this great Karugalgan funny now? The reply came from above its head. Yup. The shaman flinched and raised its head, all the while hurriedly trying to chant a defensive spell, but Jinwoo was one step quicker. Cow. The shaman's head smashed down into the ground. The floor shattered and spiderweb-like cracks rapidly spread out. Jinwoo had already experienced blowing away Vulcan with his bare fist, and that demon was much, much larger than this arrogant shaman, too. When he lightly landed on the ground, feel-good messages began popping up in his view one after the other. There you go. Jinwoo pumped his fist. Back when he was fighting using stealth, he leveled up once. When he was killing these orcs, another level up. And, after killing the boss just now, another level up. The once buffed-up shaman's body had reverted back to its original size already. He saw an egg-sized magic crystal embedded in the dead boss's necklace, but he decided not to get too greedy. Earning experience points is good enough. This was the Hunters Guild's dungeon. At the end of the day, Jinwoo licked his lips in anticipation. He couldn't help but remember the corpse of Baruka, the one that slipped through his fingers back in the Red Gate. But my situation is a lot different compared to then. Compared to now, his stats weren't that high back then. Also, killing that beastard took a lot out of him. Only after receiving the aid of 2 Night-grade soldiers, Ygritte and Iron, did he manage to beat that boss down. However, he was able to kill this shaman comparatively easily today. A week spent inside the demon's castle, this was the definite proof that the events of those short 7 days weren't in vain. Jinwoo issued a new order at the Rising, wavering black steam like smoke. Rise up. At the same time, an ominous wind brushed past his 2 cheeks. He instinctively realized it right away. It worked. A radiant smile bloomed on Jinwoo's face. As the soul-tearing scream resounded out, a mage covered in black robe rose up from the shadow of the dead shaman. Jinwoo sensed something was different about this guy, and so he checked the information window. Elite Knight grade. An elite knight. Previously, Jinwoo was able to confirm that there were 3 grades to the Shadow Soldiers. Regular grade, elite grade, and then the Knight grade. But now, for the first time ever, the Elite Knight grade appeared. He began to think that, seeing the word elite tacked onto the already existing grade Knight, this new guy had to be a realm higher than either Ygritte or Iron in terms of combat prowess. For sure, I can sense that its magic energy is far greater than that of my 2 knights. As expected of turning the boss of a dungeon into his Shadow Soldier. And also as expected, he got another system message telling to name the new guy, now that another Knight grade Shadow Soldier had appeared. A name, is it? Well, its face was hidden under the hood of the robe now, but still, high orcs and lengthy fangs went hand in hand. No. Right? Let's name it Fangs. He didn't need to issue a separate order, just thinking about it meant the new guy's name would be set. Elite Knight grade. Instead of question marks, the new name appeared in the information window. If the shaman who remained utterly arrogant right till the moment it died heard this name, the poor guy might have fainted on the spot. But well, who cares? It was already dead, anyway. With a satisfied grin on his face, Jinwoo recalled his Shadow Soldiers. He could now store almost 130 of them. Although it was a bit regrettable, he had to return the rest back to the void. This much is more than enough, though. He stepped off from the altar with a big smile on his face, but then, several people rushed over to him. They were hunters from the raid team, Cha Hien, and finally, a group of men wearing matching black business suits. Jinwoo recognized one of the faces among the black suits. Since when did Chief Wu Jinqiao show up? Seeing the expression on Wu Jinqiao, he probably had witnessed the Shadow Soldiers in action in full. Mr. Sung Jin-Woo Hunter Nim, Mr. Porter. Everyone called out to him at the same time. Then they took glances at each other. Well, it was all fine and dandy that he got to fight to his heart's content since he no longer had any reason to hide his powers, but how am I supposed to get out of this now? Jinwoo looked at all these people surrounding him and scratched the back of his head. Wu Jinqiao was the first to react. While everyone else was busy eyeing others around them, he quickly walked right up to Jinwoo's side, pulled out his identification card and displayed it proudly for all to see. We're from the association's monitoring division. Didn't matter whether you were a high-ranked hunter or a low-ranked one. You'd inevitably tense up after hearing the name of the monitoring division. And this tactic was the right one. The identity of Sung Jin-Woo Hunter Nim is being strictly guarded by the association. It is highly classified information that cannot be revealed publicly. Jinwoo could only stand back in dumbfounded admiration at Wu Jinqiao's skillful bullshitting. If you have any questions, please send them to the association. We shall escort Sung Jin-Woo Hunter now. Not so subtle implication of we won't hear any of your objections was apparent in his voice. All thanks to Wu Jinqiao's hardened attitude. Hard enough to shatter a rock even. The members of the Hunters Guild had no choice but to rein in their questions and stay silent. Shall we go? While being escorted by the agents of the monitoring division, Jinwoo walked past the hunters. As they were about to exit from the boss room for good. Hold on. An urgent call came from behind the group. Unintentionally looking back, Jinwoo spotted Son Kai-hoon approaching them while being supported by his big-framed colleague. All of his external wounds had been healed perfectly, but his complexion remained pale as he had lost a lot of blood. It'd be better for him to not move yet, though. Despite Jinwoo's worries, Son Kai-hoon managed to stand before him. He then bowed deeply. "Thank you," and he began speaking up his mind without holding anything back. "Thanks to you, we are all still alive. On behalf of the raid team, I'd like to thank you." If one believed the words of the monitoring division's hunters, then this young man seemed to be burdened by some kind of circumstances preventing him from revealing himself. With that kind of power, it'd not be too strange if he does have some kind of an unspeakable circumstance. "Thank you very much." His emotions now getting raw, Son Kai-hoon bent his back forward 90 degrees once more. That sudden movement caused his aching body to scream out in pain, but he actually found that rather welcoming. His heart had welled up with emotions when he saw Jinwoo kill the monster in the exact same fashion as how he had been toyed around with before. Thinking back to that moment was enough for him to thank this young man a countless number of times. Jinwoo walked over to the female hunter jumping up and down by the corner. "Because she's so small, I nearly failed to spot her." When he pushed forward the memo she gave to him earlier, the female healer blushed and received it with both of her hands. Thank you." Inwardly, though, she was admonishing herself. Why did I even say those embarrassing things to him back then? She now had one more reason to kick her sheets before going to bed if and when she ended up remembering today's event in the future. From the perspective of Mr. Porter, who could easily punch the dungeon boss to death, she must have looked really funny when she handed over a memo while saying it contained her final will. Putting the dazed female healer behind him, he coolly turned around to leave. "Let's go." As soon as Jinwoo began walking, the agents of the monitoring division moved together in one unit as if they had been rehearsing it. There was one exception, though. Only Cha Hee-in had failed to say something to Jinwoo, and she tried to reach out to him, but gave up in the end. I wanted to ask him for his contact numbers. All she wanted was to ask him if he could find some time to talk to her. However, she might be misunderstood if she asked him that now, what with the current situation not being settled yet. It was then a female hunter walked over to Cha Hee-in. "Excuse me, Vice Chair." "Yes." When Cha Hee-in turned around to look, the female hunter pointed to her hand. "Why are you carrying a pickaxe?" Cha Hee-in's gaze drifted towards the head of the pickaxe and her face began blushing rather quickly. She hurriedly lowered the pickaxe and cautiously asked, "You think he found me weird?" The female hunter, a mage, tilted her head and asked back, "Who did?" And that caused not just Cha Hee-in's face, but even her neck to blush in the deep shade of crimson. "My fated hour is approaching." Indeed, Hyung-nim's choice would decide Yoo Jin-ho's fate. His heart was palpitating faster, and he felt even more nervous compared to a few days ago when he was negotiating with his father for the right to become the Yujin Guild Master. Let's go back to my original purpose. My original purpose. It was no coincidence that he chose the exact same cafe as the first time he met Hyung-nim back when to propose his plan. Without Hyung-nim's help, I wouldn't even be here right now. He began looking around the interior of the cafe while thinking as such, and he was able to see this place in a new light. Quite coincidentally, the table he chose was the exact same one as the last time, too. Along with the doorbell, Jinwoo entered the cafe. Hyung-nim. Yoo Jin-ho discovered Jinwoo and shot up from his seat with a welcoming smile on his face. He bowed down as his greeting. "Oh, this?" Jinwoo came running here right after killing the high orc, so his clothing was understandably dirty. His shirt even sported bloodstains from the dying high orcs, too. He spoke as if there was nothing to worry about. "I was coming straight from a dungeon, that's why." Yoo Jin-ho was taken by surprise once more. He was nothing compared to someone like Hyung-nim. After getting his guild master license, all Yoo Jin-ho did was to waste time by drinking and partying. But what did Hyung-nim do in the meantime? He possessed incredible power, yet he still found time to enter dungeons to further hone his crafts. Suddenly, Yoo Jin-ho felt ashamed of himself. Hyung-nim, actually, Yoo Jin-ho didn't leave anything out and reported everything that happened during the negotiation with his father to Jinwoo. Even the event of Go Myung-hwan's testimony revealing the truth of who saved the hunters of the White Tiger Guild from the Red Gate incident, too. That uncle, doing something unnecessary. Still, that man did that for Jinwoo's benefit, so he couldn't get angry at that. Perhaps that was the reason for Yoo Jin-ho's expression to be a bit more glowing than usual when he was talking about the Red Gate incident. In any case, Jinwoo knew what Yoo Jin-ho was trying to say here. "So, in order for you to become the Yujin Guild's new master, you need my help, is that about right?" Jinwoo finally raised his gaze. "Hey, Jin-ho, I am." Gulp. Yoo Jin-ho swallowed his drying saliva. The chairman of the Hunters Guild Choi Jong and received a certain call. After answering that, he abandoned what he was doing, entered his private chamber, and began shouting out loudly at the phone. What was that? Sung Jin-Woo was present during our raids yesterday and today. The newly appeared rank S hunter, Sung Jin-Woo. Such a man decided to present himself right before Choi Jong-un's own guild, yet why did he fail to even notice that? It was the same thing as kicking away the golden goose willing to enter his house. It was enough to make him tear his hair out, but he was working for the mining team yesterday, and today he was carrying luggage. After hearing that revelation, it did make sense for him to not know. Okay, for the time being, let's not worry about why he did what he did. He got this feeling that sweating over that mystery would only give him a case of a migraine and no tangible answer to chew on. Besides, that wasn't important at all. After White Tiger, us hunters also owe that man now. Indeed, they were indebted to Sung Jin-Woo. Choi Jong-un wished to talk to that man as equals as much as he could before attempting to scout him. But now, his position was no different than that of the White Tiger. The hunter who took on the role of the raid team's captain, Song Kai-hoon, wasn't a fellow who'd lie about something that didn't happen, or embellish something minor as if it was a big deal. Even then, Choi Jong-un asked reflexively, "Are you telling me the truth?" "Yes, sir. That's all I saw." "That's all he saw. Does that mean there could be more? If Sung Jin-Woo was that powerful, then if you compare him to me, then how about it?" Although he may have sounded a bit childish just then, there was no better way to ascertain someone's strength than this question. Song Kai-hoon took a little time before continuing on. "Chairman, can you solo an upper grade rank a dungeon by yourself?" "No, it's impossible." However, that man did precisely that. Choi Jong-un was often referred to as the ultimate weapon. From a certain perspective, one could argue that he was being roundly disregarded in this situation. But rather than feeling sour, his heart was pounding harder instead. Me, Cha Hien, and then Sung Jin-Woo. This was the golden chance that his guild could become renowned in South Korea, no, Asia, no, the whole world, on the back of Sung Jin-Woo's abilities alone. "Chairman Choi, I know that I'm in no position to advise you on how to run the guild. But Song Kai-hoon was definitely not someone who'd go beyond his stations and run his mouth off about the guild." So, Choi Jong-un became even more curious about what he might say next. "No, it's fine. Please speak. That man. You must scout Sung Jin-Woo hunter Nim to our guild. With him, your dream might become reality." In front of the Korean Hunters Association main building, the sea of reporters showing up to cover Ri Min-seong's rank assignment test had set up a camp in front of the association building. South Korea's own Ri Min-seong, often referred as Asia's top superstar, becoming a hunter. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the cameras from the entire world were being focused here today. What with space being such a premium, the reporters began a war of nerves with each other. "Excuse me, we already reserved this spot." "Hey man, are you blind? Can't you see how many people showed up today? Who cares about your spot or mine? Your spot is where you're standing. Dang it." Meanwhile, a full-blown smile was forming on Ri Min-seong's face. Indeed, this many people showing up sounds about right. "Excuse me, Mr. Min-seong. This will be tomorrow's headline, but what do you think about it? Don't you think using that as the headline is a bit dull?" "You think so? How about this one? The man who has everything, Ri Min-seong. He now grasps power transcending humanity." Well, but if we use a strong lead-in like that, don't you think a portion of the readers will feel uncomfortable? Well, I'm not exaggerating here. And besides, no one in their right minds would talk rubbish about me in South Korea. Anyway, it was then 2 imported luxury sedans arrived at the parking lot of the association. 2 men climbed out of their respective cars almost at the same time. They were none other than Baek Yun-ho from the White Tiger Guild, and Choi Jong-un from the Hunters Guild. Look at that. It's Baek Yun-ho. Choi Jong-un's here too. The reporters blocking the front entrance of the association building all rushed towards the side of these 2 men. Baek Yun-ho and Choi Jong-un both frowned unhappily. What is up with these reporters? Why is it so chaotic today? The noises of camera flashes going off were ringing out loudly. Countless reporters surrounded these 2 men and began their barrage of questions. "Are you 2 visiting the association to scout Mr. Ri Min-seong? As the hunters representing South Korea, what do you think about Mr. Ri Min-seong potentially retiring from the entertainment industry? What do you think will be Mr. Ri Min-seong's rank? Please share your thoughts on Mr. Ri Min-seong." The famously short-tempered Baek Yun-ho waved his hands around as if he found all this annoying. "I'm not here because of that man. I have nothing else to say." While Choi Jong-un emotionlessly stated the facts, anyone related to this matter would know by now that Mr. Ri Min-seong has already signed up with the Reapers Guild. I'm visiting the association today on an unrelated matter. After hearing answers that didn't meet their expectations, the reporters inwardly grumbled and turned around. What the hell? And I thought I might have a juicy news story. I got excited for no dang reason. Still, none of them dared to express their dissatisfaction in front of a pair of rank S hunters. Reporters returned to their spots and began their waiting for Ri Min-seong's emergence once more. Once the reporters left them alone, Baek Yun-ho and Choi Jong-in met each other's glare. Baek Yun-ho greeted his counterpart first. I heard the story. Hunters Guild almost got into a big tangle yesterday, too. Or so I hear. He even deliberately emphasized the word too as well. Well, it wasn't much of a big tangle, compared to how the White Tiger had to lose their newbie rank A. The two men's war of nerves was just as fierce as the one taking place among the reporters. Baek Yun-ho was incensed for a little bit there, but eventually he sighed out softly and spoke up. In any case, both the hunters and us are in that man's debt. We really were kissed by Lady Luck yesterday. If he wasn't there, my second elite team would have been wiped out. Even though both men knew that person's name, not mentioning it could be considered the final act to their war of nerves. Choi Jong-in took a step closer. That is why, out of principle, I'd like to definitely bring that man over to our guild. Baek Yun-ho didn't back down. He and Choi Jong-in got close enough for their foreheads to nearly butt against each other. We even had suffered casualties. Looking at the need to replenish our combat force, wouldn't you agree that person joining us makes more sense? Just what are you planning to do by recruiting a rank S to shore up your combat force? Are you thinking of invading North Korea or something? What about you? Since when did you worry about principles and the like to talk about your principles here? Flames erupted out from the eyes of the two men. Master of the Reapers Guild, Mt Jayu, was arriving at the association building just now to match the timing of the press conference. When he saw those two growling at one another, a mocking smirk formed on his face. Wasn't there an old saying for that? Didn't it go, counting chickens before hatching or something like that? For Mt Jayu, this sure was an exciting development, since he always lost out to their two guilds when trying to secure resources until now. He did his best not to let the corners of his lips arch up and approach the two men. Oi, two guild chairmen over there. I hope you aren't acting like that over my Min-seong. No. And then, both Baek Yun-ho and Choi Jong-in's heads spun at the same time towards Mt Jayu. It was hard to tell who was first, really. What the hell is up with this moron? I don't give a rat's ass about this Ri Min-seong or Ri Min-gun or whatever. Mt Jayu flinched in surprise and took a step back when two rather terrifying glares landed squarely on him. What is up with these two beastards all of a sudden? What's this? Choi Jong-in and Baek Yun-ho, too. Ri Min-seong grinned deeply. He already familiar with Chairman Mt Jayu when they met during the signing of the contract. Ri Min-seong signing up with the Reapers Guild, which had been criticized for being a shell of its former glory, while disregarding the country's top two guilds, was a calculated move on his part. I mean, with this, I'll enjoy the image of someone willing to stand up for the underdogs. Crudely speaking, celebrities survived on their public image, and Ri Min-seong was really meticulous about maintaining his. The best guilds in Korea are fighting over me. He wasn't thinking of carrying on this hunter lifestyle for long. But still, that sight naturally made him feel even better about himself. Min-seong, they say they are ready now. Let's go and do the press conference. Alright, the manager took the lead. Camera flashes exploded in a scary cacophony of endless shutter clicks. Click, 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 click. As he would do every day, Ri Min-seong formed a fake smile towards hundreds of lenses surrounding him. It was then. Jinwoo had finally arrived at the front of the association. Just like he'd been told, he was stopping by the association 3 days later. Why is it so noisy here? However, it didn't look like he'd be able to enter the association at all under the current circumstances. Of course, there were plenty of ways to go around these people, such as using stealth, or jumping over the reporters, or even by finding a back entrance. But then again, his re-evaluation test had been reserved in advance 3 days ago, so he didn't feel like going through the back entrance just to avoid this wall of reporters. It's not like I committed a crime or something anyways. He had no reason not to use the front door at all. Jinwoo then proceeded to push away the tightly packed throngs of reporters and made a path for himself. I'm coming through. Oi, what are you doing? What the hell? What's wrong with you? This was the physical strength of a rank S hunter. Reporters were all helplessly pushed away, deep frowns etched on their faces. The path forward was opened up in the blink of an eye, and Jinwoo could walk up the steps leading to the front entrance of the association. However, even before he could take another step, a large, muscular dude suddenly blocked Jinwoo's path. Oi, he was Ri Min-seong's manager. His eyebrows rose up as he growled menacingly. Who the hell are you? You work for the association or something? Jinwoo didn't bother to avert his gaze and met this manager's glare squarely, before shaking his head. Huh? Would you look at this beastard? The manager's thick eyebrows quivered. Can't you see all those reporters behind you? Go back to where you came from. You can't go through here. Get lost, punk. The manager blocked the path again and tried to shove Jinwoo's chest away. The light in Jinwoo's eyes changed immediately. What was that? The manager was taken by a huge surprise. He was a melee type rank D awakened, and pushed this young punk away with the full intention of embarrassing him. But the guy didn't even budge from the spot as if his legs were nailed to the ground. Ri Min-seong's expression stiffened right away. A mysterious man who cut through the throng of reporters, and then the association president Go Gun-Huey, who came out to personally escort that man into the building. How does President Go Gun-Huey's schedule look like for the rest of today? I hear he cancelled everything for the morning. Are you telling me that the association president cancelled the whole morning's worth of appointments for that man? This place had become too restless after those two men's sudden entrance, and the current situation was no longer suitable for holding a press conference. Ri Min-seong glared at his manager for a long time, before his head naturally spun towards his side. Like throwing salt on the wound, the camera crew from the news stations were getting ready to leave. They were supposed to broadcast everything live. If this distracted spectacle got on the airwaves and was broadcast to the rest of the country, then there was a good chance that all of Ri Min-seong's hard work to increase his brand's value by becoming a rank hunter would go down the drain for good. Excuse me, everyone. Allow me to go have a quick chat regarding my schedule today with the association's representatives. Blurting that nonsense to the reporters, Ri Min-seong then headed to the main association building. It was not to discuss the change of schedule but to declare his intentions. I mean, you have any idea how much my dad donates to the association? Just before he could push open the glass front door, hunters from the monitoring division rushed out first and he was pushed back instead. They stood in a line to block off the front entrance. What the hell is this now? Ri Min-seong's forehead creased up. He quickly checked the name tag attached to one of the men's chests. Section Chief Woo Jin-cheol, Hunters Association Monitoring Division. Ri Min-seong questioned Woo Jin-cheol right away. What's the meaning of this? Why are you blocking the entrance? Woo Jin-cheol's sunglasses-covered eyes stared down at Ri Min-seong. Currently, another awakened is going through the process of the rank reassignment test. No one will be allowed to enter the building until 11 o'clock, when the test is scheduled to end. What did you just say? By another awakened, was this man referring to that young man who followed the association president into the building not too long ago? The time now was 10:30 in the morning. 11 o'clock was the originally scheduled time for his rank assignment test. No one was allowed to enter before that. Ri Min-seong's scheme to take the test ahead of schedule to reverse the situation was about to blow up in his face. At first, he spoke in a polite tone of voice. Please, don't be like this and let me in. I have something to discuss with the related department of the association. I'm sorry. Woo Jin-cheol shut his mouth up with that single short sentence. With his frustration boiling over, Ri Min-seong couldn't hold back any longer and his true colors slowly surfaced to the fore. Look here, mister. Don't you know who I am? I'm Ri Min-seong, man. Ri Min-seong. Ri Min-seong's tone of voice became sharp and abrasive as if he could no longer take this crap. But still, Woo Jin-cheol showed no sign of budging. Ri Min-seong spat out a dumbfounded groan. Oi, you know that Yujin Construction is the biggest sponsor of the Hunters Association, right? The corners of Ri Min-seong's lips arched up. Vice chairman of the Yujin Construction. Ri Won-jae is my father, okay. And do you see all these people behind me? Ri Min-seong pointed towards the sea of reporters below the entrance steps. You think you can treat the son of Yujin Construction's vice chairman this badly in front of these many reporters? You think you can handle the fallout? Woo Jin-cheol's reply was pretty simple. Yes, we can. What? Ri Min-seong was even more dumbfounded now. Just who the hell was that young man for the association president to personally escort him inside and block off the entire building for a measly rank assignment test? And letting a section chief gopher, someone not even that high up in the food chain like a head of the department, to do whatever the hell he pleased. Just who the hell is this another awakened supposed to be that the association is willing to bend over backwards like this? Only then did Woo Jin-cheol remove his sunglasses. If I were to tell you that. When Woo Jin-cheol's sharp, scary eyes resembling a bird of prey were finally revealed, Ri Min-seong unwittingly took a step back. Woo Jin-cheol continued to glare at Ri Min-seong and quietly spoke. Do you think you can handle the fallout instead, Mr. Ri Min-seong? please, come this way. Alright. Jinwoo was about to follow after Go-Gun Huey's guidance and enter the measurement room, but then spotted two somewhat familiar-looking faces. Baek Yun-ho and Choi Jong-in were sitting on the waiting room chairs facing the measurement room. That was where smartly dressed headhunters of various smaller guilds could be found 3 days ago. When their gazes met, both men stood up from their seats and bowed lightly. Jinwoo reciprocated the greeting and walked past the hallway. As they walked down on the passageway, a soft smile formed on Go-Gun Huey's lips. Those two men, they have been waiting for you for about an hour. The leaders of two guilds that represented South Korea in the world stage had shown up 1 hour early to wait for the re-evaluation result. Perhaps he had read Jinwoo's expression, because Go-Gun Huey continued to explain in a calm voice. A new rank S hunter has appeared after 2 long years. And besides, Choi Jong-in has heard of your powers, so he should be even more anxious at the moment. Jinwoo slowly nodded his head. Oh my, association president. The association employees they met on the way all politely greeted Go-Gun Huey and stared at Jinwoo with mystified eyes. Who is that man that necessitates our association president to personally guide him? Could he be someone really important? How can someone that young know our president? Soon, they arrived at the examination area, located deeper within the building. Before the re-evaluation can take place, we must confirm your abilities first and set the new classification for you. Jinwoo already knew that. Hunters were classified as a melee, mage, healing, or even support type according to their abilities, and performed their roles where they were needed the most. Well, I can do this. Jinwoo called out a single shadow soldier. Yuck. The examiner was greatly taken by surprise. Seriously speaking, how could anyone stay composed when a soldier decked out in jet black armor suddenly rose up from the ground? Jinwoo deliberately chose the lowest leveled one out of his regular soldiers, but still, the dude emitted intense pressure that most normal people found hard to endure. Is this your summoned creature? You can control a summon. The examiner's voice was trembling noticeably. In that case, how many summoned creatures can you control? Well, it will be useless to lie, so. Indeed, the number of eyewitnesses who saw his shadow soldiers yesterday was nearly 20. Jinwoo spoke up a slightly reduced number of soldiers sealed inside his shadow through his skill. It's around 100 or so. The examiner's eyes went extra round at the number 100. 100, yes. On the other hand, Jinwoo remained nonplussed. At the same time, as he stared at the shadow soldier, Go-Gun Huey's eyes were glittering brightly. 100 of those. At a glance, that soldier possessed around the same amount of magic energy as a rank B hunter. If that young man could summon 100 of those soldiers, then one simply had to concede that his powers had already exceeded a regular large guild's combat force. Truthfully, that was an incredible ability. Jinwoo could feel Go-Gun Huey's passionate gaze burning up on his skin. He breathed a sigh of relief after confirming the reactions of the surroundings. Well, if one regular soldier can elicit this sort of reaction, then he should thank his lucky stars that he didn't choose to call out the highest leveled soldier among his flock. Egret, or the boss level creature he managed to poach yesterday, Fangs. Whatever the case may be, this was enough to prove the type of ability he had possessed. Jinwoo quickly shoved his new hunter license inside his wallet. When he got to the end of the corridor, the waiting duo of Baek Yun-ho and Choi Jong-in approached him. Mr. Sung Jin-Woo, can we have a chat? Sung Jin-Woo Hunter Nim, I'm sorry, I'm pressed for time at the moment. Jinwoo ignored them both and quickly walked towards the glass door. Baek Yun-ho raised his worried voice. If it was me, I wouldn't use that exit. Is he trying to imply that the sweet deals he prepared for this occasion will make me regret walking out of this door or something? Jinwoo wasn't interested regardless of what was being offered, so he continued to ignore Baek Yun-ho's dissuasion and pushed the glass door wide open. When that happened, the reporters that had managed to climb up the steps to push and shove against the monitoring division's agents began clicking their cameras non-stop, with flashes exploding brightly all around him. What the heck is this? Jinwoo became utterly speechless at this blinding explosion of lights. One of her friends grabbed her wrist, a shocked expression clearly visible on that girl's face. Jin-ah. Why what? With her friend shocked like this, even Jin-ah got shocked alongside her for no reason. It's your oppa. He's on TV right now. What? Why is my oppa? Did he get injured again? If not, could it be even worse? The friend dragged Jin-ah by her wrist inside the classroom as if she didn't want to waste time explaining anymore. Oh, oppa. The moment Jin-ah saw the TV screen, the banana milk in her hand fell to the floor. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.